This is just a random collection of Monon images that was put together for the after dinner slideshow that we've always had at the Monon conventions. And we've used it at two or three conventions thus far. And what it is just uh, we show the image and we talk about it and we keep right on going. And you'll see I last presented this in Westchester, Ohio in 2018. And I've actually done it once since then. But Greg, why don't we just click through these and I'll do a little talking and anybody wants to break in should. That's what it's all about is to share information.
Sounds good.
So, for those of you not familiar with the Monon, it was a bridge route between Chicago and Louisville, and it also had a branch that extended down to Indianapolis and another one that extended up to Michigan City. So the center of the railroad was Monon, Indiana, right there where the X forms, and they enjoyed a lot of bridge traffic out of Chicago to Louisville. It was a very fast route, and the railroad ran it that way. But they had good, solid customers on the branch that ran up to Michigan City, among them the Pullman Standard factory up there. And then every one of those little towns that you see on that route typically had an east-west railroad interchange. And so the Monon could interchange with an east-west railroad without taking the traffic into Chicago to do so. So that was a little bit of a shortcut to get a car from southern Indiana up to a route that would go out to the eastern carriers. The Indianapolis branch uh, just had a lot of good customers and business on it, and that for it paved its way. Then there's a branch down there. If you'll see where the name Victoria is, those are all coal mines. So it's called the INL division, and the Monon hauled lots of coal out of there. Then you go to the on down to Bedford and Bloomington area, and that's where all the Bedford stone or the limestone that we have a lot of the famous federal buildings built from. That was all quarried and milled in that area, and a lot of it went out in Monon Gone, so they got all over the place. And then finally we get to Louisville. Oh, and then there's the French Lick branch, which is where the French Lick Resort was. So that was popular with a lot of people out of Chicago that brought their Chicago money down to the little town of French Lick. And it was a pretty corrupt place back in the 30s, 20s, and 30s. So you could do about anything down there. Uh, it's still there, nice place, but it's all about the only thing you can do is gamble down there now. So that's the Monon anyway. So. Let's go on to another slide. Chicago interchange partners, the Monon had um, through the Belt Railway of Chicago interchanged with those roads that you see there, Santa Fe, Northwestern, South Shore, and so forth. Go on to the next slide. Then the Monon also interchanged with the Harbor Belt, and those roads interchanged through the Harbor Belt with the Monon also. Go on to the next one. In Louisville, the Monon was part owner in the Kentucky and Indiana Terminal Railroad. They owned a bridge across the Ohio River. So the Monon track had stopped in Indiana and went into Louisville on the KNIT, and then the railroad could interchange with the roads that you see listed there through the KNIT. Next slide. Okay, in Indianapolis, the Monon terminated its lines at what we call Belt Junction. And Belt Junction was where the Monon had a junction with the Indianapolis Union Railway, which is also called the Belt. And the Monon therefore could interchange with the IU, the B&O IC, Nickel Plate, Central, and Peoria and Eastern, and the Pennsy. So go on to the next one. A lot of good interchanges. Um, Michigan City interchange partners were the Nickel Plate, C&O, and South Shore, but the biggest customer there in Michigan City was Pullman Standard. Every new car that came out of the Pullman Standard plant in Michigan City came out on the Monon. And of course, some of them only went across town to be interchanged to somebody else, but a lot of them went much further on the Monon, which had all those connections that were needed to get the cars where they ultimately belonged. And I go to the next slide. The Monon had arrangements to um, take the new cars, and some of the railroads would let them load them as long as it was in the direction of the railroad it was going to. So sometimes the Monon was loading brand new cars from other railroads to online destinations for those railroads. So that was a nice little arrangement for both the railroads. Now, we call it the Monon Railroad, but that didn't really, I mean, it's always been called the Monon Route, but it was January 10th, 1956, that the Chicago, Indianapolis, and Louisville, known as the Monon Route, changed this identity, a corporate identity, to MON or Monon, the Monon Railroad. And the reporting marks therefore changed from CIL to MON. And a lot of changes came after that. Go ahead. And here's an example of a car that had the CIL painted out and the MON stenciled over it, and then the paint wore off, or they didn't do a very good job of priming it. So it just gives you an idea what you could run into. Go ahead. This is a picture of the terminal in Indianapolis. And what's unique about this picture is the fueling facility. Uh, every day when this combination, this is in the 1960s, when this combination of locomotives came into Indianapolis, which actually came in at night, there was a BL2 and an F3. They would then be refueled by Hoosier Coal and Oil sometime that afternoon before returning to Monon that night. And these pair of units went from Indianapolis to Monon and return every night with all of the inbound traffic for the railroad. Now, the Monon put a BL2 with an F unit uh, so that they had a good locomotive to work off of, which is the BL2, and then they had the additional power, which was the F unit. The Monon ended up with extra F units as the passenger service dwindled, and that was a way to multiply the number of BL2s they had, which are actually used in switching and online work. Most railroads put a GP7 with their F units, but the Monon didn't have those. Go ahead. And this is a BL2 that I think this is the Chicago area. Just gives you an idea what they looked like in the mid 50s. And I would say this is a local train, or no, I'm not going to say it's a local train. It's probably a transfer. Go ahead. And this is a train, this is a wreck train. I believe it's on its way to Indianapolis. I don't have exact locations on a lot of this stuff, but there was a derailment down there in the late 60s, and this was the wreck train that went down to clean that up. Go ahead. This is an unusual combination because of the BL2 in the middle. But keep in mind that the Monon freight units and passenger units were not built with MU capability on the front end. They were designed to run back to back with other F units. So the only thing that would fit in the middle of those would be a B unit, which had MU capability on both ends, or the BL2s, which had capability of MU on both ends. Now, as we go along, some of the Fs got front MU control or MU connectors, but that was sort of unique. So in the model railroad world, we kind of have to watch what we match up in order to make sure that it actually was physically possible to put a combination together. Go ahead. This is what the Monon's BL2s looked like when they were delivered. That's about that. And here's a local coming in from the north. So that means it originated in South Hammond coming into Monon. And the reason you know it's a local is the first car in the consist, and that is what we call a rider car or head-in caboose. There were a total of eight of those on the Monon, and they were built for the conductor and the head brakeman to ride in, so that they'd be right up front where the local switching and customer relations and communication with the stations were. So it made it a lot handier for the work to get done. Go ahead. This is what the Monon North Yard looks like. The North Yard was actually west of town, but it would eventually head north, so they call it the North Yard. And there was a three stall engine house. The center stall had sand drying equipment in there. So what would happen is that far left door, you'd roll a gondola of sand in there, and they'd shovel it into the dryer. Then, as they needed, they would shovel it out of the dryer into buckets, and you go to that fourth or the last door on the right, and there was a platform in there, and you carry those buckets up on the platform, and that's how and typically they were BL2s there. That's how the BL2s were sanded, was from buckets carried up there and poured in by hand. Um, Alcos rarely came to Monon for servicing because they had the high mounted sanding outlets, and you couldn't reach them. So they kept it to the EMD units there. Go ahead. And this is Monon again. This is probably all or most of the Monon's side dump ballast cars. And these cars did run an interchange service occasionally. I've got a couple of reways offline. I think they hauled ballast. There was a lot of stone that was quarried. Now, this is crushed stone that was quarried in the Monon and areas north, Francisville. And in fact, that museum that Greg ate at was built with the money from the sale of crushed stone over a man's lifetime. He had several quarries in the area, bought lots of farm ground, probably got richer off the farm ground than he did off the sale of the quarrying the stone. But he loaded a lot of these cars. So when you had to request for a side unloader or you were hauling ballast, these are the cars that were used. Otherwise, they use regular old two-bay hoppers. Go ahead. This is what's called the Monon transfer. The building on the left was designed for the freight houses throughout the system to load all of their miscellaneous less than carload freight into that facility. The dockman there then straightened or would sort out everything and load box cars for each of the freight house locations. So this was like a break bulk in the trucking business now. Then the building on the right was the freight house. That was for all the local freight business. So if you had a local piece of freight, you just wheeled it across that platform there, and the local drayman would deliver it, or the customer would pick it up. Um, and so that's how all the less than carload freight was handled in Monon, and that lasted. It was in the 50s when they closed it, and they changed the focus of it to South Hammond with a new terminal up there. But um, interesting method, and I model that because it's just fascinating. For what it's worth, the Monon had 7 freight houses. So if you want to model that operation, you need to have 7 cars sitting there loading, 7 cars outbound at the other freight houses, and 7 cars on their way back. So you got to have 21 cars to run that business. And what the fun part is, our guys run out of Monon cars, then they have to use offline cars, and that makes it kind of interesting. And you get to see how box cars get mixed up, and offline cars end up going the wrong direction and things like that. So go ahead. Another view of the freight or the transfer when it was a little better shape. You can see the cars sitting there lined up. The doors had to line up because you had a track on the far side and then 2 tracks on the side, this side, which is the south side. And so in order to get from one to the other, the doors had to line up so you could go through the cars. The car on the left, if you look closely, says merchandise service. It's that stripe up there said high speed merchandise service. The Monon had 10 of those cars, and they tried to focus them on the LCL business, but of course there weren't enough 10 weren't enough cars to do it. Uh, so go ahead. In the background, we see the transfer station again and the freight house for Monon proper. And there's a nice ramp there. This is an inbound freight train coming in to Monon from the north. Go ahead. This is a closer look at the Monon engine terminal. That's an 11,000 gallon tank there on your right. Yeah, there we go. And the little house there's got the pump in it. And that crane that you see hanging out there with the hose, that's what they used to fuel the locomotives. So the locomotive being serviced, and you can see a BL2 setting in the last opening there in the engine house. It's getting sand the hard way, then it'll come out and take on fuel. And it looks like all this fell to the hostler, all this sanding and fueling and work. And there were the potential of 3 to 4 locomotives stationed at Monon because of local switching and some locals that originated out of there. Any questions about anything you see in this picture regarding the engine facility? Okay, let's keep going, Greg. This is a picture of it closed up, um, and that structure to the left is up against the building is the ice house, and that thing actually got moved around. It wasn't always at that location. Go ahead. This is a local coming in again from the north into Monon. Uh, Typically was handled by a BL2, sometimes two if the traffic was heavy. Go ahead. This is a BL2 coming into Monon from the south. In this case, the Indianapolis line, and everything, of course, crossed right there at the Diamond, and people kept things up a lot nicer around the station. You'll see a thing there for rosebush to grow up in, and there was a hotel right next to the tracks, so there was quite a bit of attention paid to how the place looked, which wasn't the case in later years. Go ahead. This is it's probably the same local, maybe not, coming on, and that's a restaurant right by the tracks there. I've eaten in there a few times with some railroaders, and then the back of that's the station, which we don't see. That's State Route 43 they're crossing as we pull into the that north yard. Go ahead. But basically the same scenario. This is coming in from the Indianapolis line. That's the platform where the passengers were boarded and let off at the station. Go ahead. And this is a northbound. Well, I'm not sure where he's going, but that's obviously a local. He could be probably going into the yard and from coming in from Indianapolis. Go ahead. I'm not sure where this one's at. Another BL2. A lot of BL2s here. The Monon only had 9 of them, and I think only a total of 81 were built. Go ahead. This is the turntable at Monon. It was 72 feet long. It was moved from somewhere else. I forget where. They needed a terminal, or they needed a turntable in the steam era, particularly. Um, they could turn locomotives on this, but at one time they had a Y there by using going up to the diamond and using 2 legs of the interchange tracks. But when they took one of the interchange tracks out, it sort of eliminated that. But um, they had the turntable also, so you could turn locomotives a lot quicker and easier. You didn't have to run all the way up there to the diamond to do it. And the locomotives didn't need to be turned if they were going back in the other direction. Go ahead. This is an Indianapolis train inbound to Monon, so that makes it a northbound. He'll go on through to Chicago, and that sign is something that the Monon did in the late '50s and early '60s, I suppose. They put up these lighted signs everywhere. One of the station guys once told me somebody up in Chicago made a hell of a lot of money off that deal. But they were lighted signs, and you could see where you were at day or night. Uh, in the stations that had uh, a passenger ticket agency, and that was a typical uh, northbound train out of Indianapolis for the late '50s and well, the late '50s because it ended in '59. Except this must be a Sunday because there's no RPO on that train. So go ahead. This is crossing State Route 43 at Monon. I'm in the process of modeling that Texaco station you see back there. Of course, we have the restaurant there, and I suspect that's the photographer's Chevy there that he didn't get out of the way in time. And this is a northbound passenger train. There's two units on this one, so it's probably the Chicago to Louisville train, which typically in that era got two units. Go ahead. Here we are on the station platform at Monon. The station's to the right, and the building to the back is the hotel. And believe me, the cars went within 10 feet of that hotel right there at the corner. So it was a real close arrangement. Not sure why, how or why it got that way. Um, what you're seeing there is this is a tough one for the locomotive engineer. He's on the wrong side to spot this um, that RPO so that we can load that baggage and also get passengers to train and detrain. So he's got to rely on certain marks that are in place so that he can stop that locomotive at just the right spot. And they always did it. And you'll notice he's handing up an order there. Uh, these guys were required to sign the register, but the passenger trains didn't sign it. The agent signed it for them, and they're handing up the his orders for uh, that'll cover him from Monon south to the Lafayette shops. Go ahead. And this is the same train further down the track, probably standing on Route 43 right at this point. There's the motel and the or hotel in the background, and and you can see that they had in equipment. Um, the RPO was always the last head-in car before the coaches. So he usually could hit the platform as well as the coaches could detrain people at the same time. Go ahead. This is a special that the Monon ran. They ran several of those. A lot of times they were for employees and would take them up to Michigan City. And you'll see he's coming from the south, which is Lafayette shops. And if he was on the track in the foreground, that would head to Chicago. But he's going to Michigan City on that Michigan City branch. And they've got every kind of car you can imagine on this train. So I'm thinking they've got the Lafayette employees and they're picking up Monon employees and they're going up for a day on Lake Michigan, which was typically done in the 40s and 50s. Go ahead. This is a northbound passenger train um, rounding the curve there at Monon for and the hotels in the background. You can see how close the cars get to the hotel. Um, Go ahead. This shot was taken in Bedford, and this is the northbound train 6, which was the thoroughbred that ran from Louisville to Chicago. They ran a northbound and a southbound. They opposed each other each day and typically met someplace south of the Lafayette shops. Um, and this is a typical consist. They had a certain amount of railway express business that ran on this train, and I take that back. This is not a typical consist. Um, the You don't have an RPO on this train. That means this is a Sunday shot. But you do have two green coaches back there in the consist. The Monon kept their newest coaches before they built all this post-war streamline equipment. They kept two of those old green coaches built in 1923, and they put those on the north and southbound thoroughbred on Fridays. And that picked up all of the maintenance way workers from throughout the system. And then they did the same thing on a Sunday when they dropped them all back off so they could go to work on Monday. So they had two extra coaches on those trains those days. Now, I model that, but I kind of got it compressed. I only use one coach on each one. It's kind of a neat little change of pace. But then you don't have the RPO running on Sunday. Go ahead. This train is obviously an Indianapolis train. It's up on the north end someplace. But what you see there is the second car is a boxcar. The Monon converted six PS1 boxcars to storage mail service, and they ran almost exclusively on the Indianapolis trains. And that's what this looks like we have here. Go ahead. This is at Gosport, Indiana. Really back toward the end of the steam. The Monon had their new passenger diesels, but they hadn't painted any, or they didn't have the new passenger cars yet, so they're pulling the old green stuff. And the water tower is still there. And this is one of the three locations on the railroad, I believe, that had a pull-through freight house. And you can see the opening there. You actually, if that car had freight going to Gosport, you would roll that thing inside the building and unload it on the dock in there, and also served as a station. And I think at one time it may have been a pull-through passenger station. The building on the left is a water pump house. They pumped water out of the river, which you can't see because of the trees, but that's where all the water came from for the steam locomotives. Go ahead. This is a train coming out of Indianapolis, and it says 1959, so this is really close to the end. Dick Baldwin took a lot of nice shots in that area, and he was from Indianapolis. So we have a baggage car, and then of course the RPO and the coach. And in this particular case, the RPO end of the car is not uh, closest to the coach, which it usually was. However, it looks like the car did not get turned um, in its time in Indianapolis on this particular trip, so it's running what not typically what you would see, I guess the best way to say it. Go ahead. This is coming into Frankfort, Indiana, and we have a class trip here. I believe is what this is for the school kids. You know, back in when I was growing up, a lot of times the first time us country kids got to ride on a train, if we didn't sneak on one somewhere, was a class trip. And this particular, I don't know where it's going. Probably up to Monon, and it'll meet the this train's counterpart and come back down to Frankfurt. But it gives kids a chance to ride a train, and there we are at Frankfurt. So go ahead. This is just south of Monon. It's a passenger train that's leaving the station and headed south to Lafayette. Here we have one unit on the train today. This is probably number five, the southbound thoroughbred. What happened was the rule of thumb the railroad used when the Fs were in good shape was four cars, one unit, five cars, two units. Now, they didn't always go that way, but they tried, that was the rule of thumb they tried to use. If they had the second unit available and was going to be more than five cars or more on the train, they'd put the second unit on. Go ahead. This is uh, a unit setting just south uh, of the track at, or the station at Monon. And what's more important, this is one of the troop kitchen cars. They had a total of 10 that the Monon purchased. They rebuilt 9 of them into ultimately, they did a lot of things, including cabooses and everything else. But by this time, all 9 of them had been converted to storage mail cars. Basically, that was, the post office filled them up full of mail and locked the door, and the Monon delivered it to Louisville, and they would unlock the door and unload it there. So that's what they call storage mail. Go ahead. I'm not sure where this is at, but this is a northbound train probably out of Indianapolis. And again, probably on a Sunday because there's no RPO on it. Go ahead. This is crossing the bridge just before you get to the station at Monon, coming from the south, coming from Lafayette. Go ahead. And here we are rounding the platform at Monon. Note the little CIL on the baggage cart there. I don't know where the Monon thought their baggage cars were going to go, that they needed to put their lettering on them, but they did. It's kind of a nice touch. Go ahead. Pardon me. This is an Indianapolis train coming in from the north. As you can see, it's got the boxcar, storage mail boxcar on it. And he'll stop at the Monon station and then head south to Indianapolis. Go ahead. This, I'm not sure where this one's at. So looks like he's got 2 storage mail cars on him. That's about all I can say. Go ahead. Yeah, here we are at Monon. This train is uh, obviously headed to Indianapolis based on the track he's on. You can see the signal they used for the crossing before they electrified all that. And yeah, that's about all that's unique on this train. Go ahead. This is that I think the same train we saw a while ago. He's coming from the south into the station at Monon, headed north. Go ahead. And this is State Route 43. That's a train from Indianapolis headed to Chicago. To give you a little background, the Monon had a total of 8 EMDF3s that the uh, railroad purchased for passenger service, and they were painted in that red and gray color you've seen. Um, that was enough to do it, but just in case, they purchased 2 more that were numbered in the passenger series and geared in the passenger gearing, but they were painted black and gold and were held in reserve. And by holding them in reserve, mean they used them in freight service when there wasn't a special passenger assignment for them. Go ahead. This is one of the passenger F3s that has an F7 grill. There were 2 of them, and this was due to a wreck. And they both those units got sent back to EMD. And some of the things they got that were particularly of interest were, you get that F unit grill if you're a modeler, and also if you look up on the nose to the left of the headlight, there is a door there you open and and that's an MU connection. So these locomotives could be uh, connected, MU connected through the nose. Didn't happen very often, but that they knew they needed that capability, and they should have done that when they bought the locomotives. Go ahead. This is an older shot with you see the older Herald. Um, I think this is Lafayette Junction, Indiana, which is on the south edge of Lafayette. That's where the nickel plate, the New York Central, the Monon all crossed, and it was operated by the New York Central. The Monon had, all their passenger trains had to go through there that went to Louisville. Go ahead. Another one of the passenger trains, nothing unique here. I'm not sure where it's at. Go ahead. Nothing special here other than we don't have an RPO. So um, probably means Train, the photograph's taken on Sunday. Go ahead. Here's one of those rebuilds. 81B and 82A were uh, the ones that had the F7 grills. He's waiting in Chicago. It was pretty easy. They like to run two units um, up to Chicago on the train, so they didn't have to turn them. If they ran a single F unit in there, they had to pay the Chicago and Western Indiana, even though the Monon was a partial owner, they had to pay them to turn that locomotive before it could be run back the other way. Go ahead. And I'm not sure where this is. Kind of interesting. That's a clearance car there. It's got a thing mounted on the flat car that measures clearances, and that's obviously been set out. And it kind of looks like it's coming into the station at Monon because there's the track to the left where the maintenance cars are sitting was often used for that purpose. They called it the hog chute track, and the hog chute was gone because the packing plant was gone. But the name stayed forever, as far as I know. Go ahead. This is Louisville Union Station, and the Monon was a tenant. It was owned by the Louisville and Nashville. So the Monon took the Kentucky and Indiana terminal on the Monon trackage to get into the station, and they had to back in. This was a back end station. Go ahead. This is a derailment photograph. It's a nice shot for modeling trucks and things like that. And I've got several of these derailment shots in here. They're just useful and interesting. So go ahead. This was taken at Monon. It's just an outbound uh, F unit. I'm not sure which line it's on, but it's one of those that got the F unit grill. Go ahead. Now this is one of the two F units that's passenger equipped but painted black and gold, 85A and 85B, and so they used them in freight service as needed, but they were could also be seen on passenger trains when needed. Go ahead. And these two had the front MU, by the way. I think they were former demonstrators. Um, as into the 60s, the Monon's Indianapolis trains came off in 1959. About 1962, they decided we're spending too much money on paint with these red and gray passenger cars and red and gray locomotives. Let's just paint them all black and gold, freight and passenger. So in 1962, and there was a pretty serious campaign to start painting all of the passenger locomotives and all the passenger cars black and gold. Go ahead. This is just, I think we've seen this shot already. Um, we talk about the troop kitchen cars and the PS ones that I've already talked about that were used in storage mail service. So go ahead. This is a, a derailment photo, and I think this is the culprit. Those are uh, what do we call those trucks? I've forgotten.
Fox.
Allied full cushion.
Allied full cushion, yes. And they had a tendency to come apart if you didn't regularly check them over and tighten everything on them. And it looks like one of them came apart here. Uh, the research I did was that there were several mandates to replace these trucks, and by 1959 it was mandatory. So the Mona did replace all of them that went offline. A couple of these cars were retired before that and didn't go offline and kept the Allied full cushion trucks, but the rest of them got AAR 50-ton trucks. And but it looks like a derailment that is the result of one of those trucks failing. Go ahead. This is an Indianapolis train, and you can see the one of those four PS1s is sticking up in profile there. And so that's how you can, they're pretty easy to spot. Go ahead. I said there were four PS1s, and there were, but there were also two others that got the full passenger paint scheme, and this is what they looked like. They renumbered them 250 and 251 from 635 and 841. Then when they got done using them as storage mail cars, they didn't repaint them, but they did return their original numbers, and they went back into the boxcar pool. Go ahead. This is just a neat photo of unloading RPO. I think it's at Indianapolis. Uh, and they obviously hold a lot of mail in those things. That is one of the two uh, Pullman, or excuse me, one of the two ACF hospital cars that were converted to RPOs. So that's recognizable. And those two cars were typically used on the Indianapolis line. So that's definitely an Indianapolis shot. Go ahead. This is a former Santa Fe diner that the Monon purchased, and it looks like they're doing some work on it here. But Monon had a real hodgepodge of old passenger cars, and they did some unique things to maintain levels of service. I guess the food on the Monon passenger trains was really good, but some of the cars they had, it was kind of questionable. But this is one of them. This is a former Santa Fe car. Go ahead. This is uh, I'm not sure what it is, but it's one of the cars that the Monon took a U.S. Army hospital car and completely refurbished it. And the reason for that was in the post-World War II era, the Monon desperately needed new passenger cars. The 1923 coaches were the newest thing they had, and there was only five of those. So the passenger car manufacturers were back ordered 2 and 3 years, so new cars weren't an option. So what the railroad did was they were able to pick these cars up at a really good price, and the Lafayette shops converted them to coaches, deluxe coaches, um, tail cars. Uh, let's see, there's some combination snack and dining coach cars. So there's quite a few different. I've got to do an article on these and coming up, and I'll probably know more about it then. But originally they were painted a light gray on top, red in the middle, and a darker gray on the bottom, black underneath, and the black roof is wasn't originally there. It originally was that light gray, and they realized that wasn't going to work, so they painted them all black. Uh, so go ahead to the next one. I've got several of these cars in here. This is a Monon, what a Monon conductor looked like, and he's standing by coach 21. I'm not sure where we're at. Go ahead. This is Monon business car number 2, originally numbered or named the Lynn. The Lynn still exists. It's at the museum in North Judson. It's been taken back to the red and gray paint scheme, and the interior was stripped. And as one of my friends said, they turned it into a Cracker Barrel inside by putting wood tables and chairs in there, and they served food in there. Um, when in fact this was one of the three private cars that the Monon operated, 1, 2, and 3. And it was named the Lynn after the president of the railroad's granddaughter, Lynn Chambers. So here it is, and uh, this says 1947. I don't think it is because it's in black and gray paint, not red and gray, and it didn't get painted red or black and gold until uh, around 1962. So go ahead. The Monon had 9 RS3s, number 21 through 29. Uh, they were used mostly on the south end. They were kept busy in the quarries. They were good pullers. And then on the weekends, when they weren't switching to quarries, if there was an excess of freight that managed to get stopped at the Bloomington, Indiana, McDowell yards, they would hook 4 or 5 of those things together and pull it all to Louisville and pull back what they could to get ahead of what was going on, catch up and get ahead. So the RSs were very versatile. Uh, at least five of them assigned to Bloomington at about any given time. That car right behind it is one of the Ryder cars that was built from a troop kitchen car. Those things only lasted 3 or 4 years when the railroad discovered that they needed them for storage mail cars, and they were a much better fit for passenger service than uh, the box cars that they converted. So they all got converted to storage mail cars, and then the Monon built, purpose-built Ryder cars uh, after that. So they had a total of 8. So they built 4 more. Go ahead to the next slide. This is one of the RS2s in uh, the K&I yards at Louisville, and it's in a cut of cars that it's either a 2-unit local set, a combo, or one of those 5-unit sets that they sent down on the weekends. Go ahead. Before the purchase of the first steel box cars on the Monon, which was 1942, this was it. This was the what you would see. Now this is in company service, so it's a little rough, but this was your typical Monon boxcar prior to 1942. And really, it's kind of a unique car. A lot of people want to call them some kind of Canadian design, but they're not. They're unique to themselves. They're built by Haskell's and Barker in Michigan City. Of course, the Monon bought a lot of equipment from Haskell and Barker, which ultimately was Pullman Standard because they were online and they were a good customer. So go ahead. Uh, the Monon boxcar fleet was divided in 3 categories. They had the AR-37 cars, which were 10-foot interior height, and there were 450 of them. Then the pre-PS1 design 10-6 cars. These were cars that had welded sides, but they still had some of the older 37 AAR features, and including the dreadnought ends. And I'm not sure about the roofs, but they were called a pre-PS1 design. There were 500 of those. They were numbered 1 to 500. Then the last group are the PS1s, and these were 601 and up, and they were the all welded PS design, uh, and were delivered from 1952 on, I believe, was the date that um, they bought those, and those all came from Pullman State. All the box cars came from Pullman Standard in Michigan City, and the Monon upgraded and changed the paint and lettering as the railroad changed its image. Go ahead. So this is one of the 450 cars built in 1942. It's been repainted into the Monon signature paint scheme, which is what I call this. This particular car was repainted by the Monon's Lafayette shops. And the Lafayette shops painted the sides and the ends and the roof. If they painted the roof, it would be the same color. That stripe up on top is really a very light gray, and then the lettering is white. And that was the scheme that the Monon liked to apply, but didn't always apply between 1952 and 1957. Go ahead. This is another one of those, the light gray is a little more obvious up on top. And this car was painted prior to January 10th, 1956. Remember, that's the date of the name change. Anything that got painted after that got MON reporting marks. Go ahead. Here's one that got painted after January 10th, 1956. Go ahead. And this is what that group of 1 through 500 looked like. This is the second group, the one that were the pre-PS ones. You see the welded sides, but it's got dreadnought ends, and it looks like a square panel roof is what it is. And there were, like I said, this was the largest group on the railroad, 500 cars, and this was the paint and lettering scheme that they were delivered in. The Monon couldn't figure out what they wanted for the paint scheme, so there was a lot of variation for a while. Go ahead. This is one of the 1937 AAR cars. And what's unique about this car is it obviously was painted before January 10th, 56, but it has since had the CIL reporting mark painted out. There was a period of time when the railroad could use their name rather than the reporting mark. And the Monon did a little of that. So they used the MONON instead of MON. And the Pennsy was another one that did that. There were several railroads that tried that for a while. For some reason, it was eliminated. I'm not sure why, but including the Monon, they quit doing it. So go ahead. Another repaint of the 4700 series. The that series of I'm sorry, the 1937 design cars built in 42. The numbers were 9001 through 9450. They had 450 of them. Go ahead. This car will throw you off. It was painted in 1958, and this is the paint lettering that became preferred at that point. However, this car is black with yellow lettering. It's a black and white photo, but I've got records of what got painted black and yellow, and this has got yellow lettering. There were only 7 boxcars in that 9001 to 9449 that got this paint. Go ahead. And here's that same paint scheme. This is the oxide brown lettering with the newer paint scheme. This is the one of the 37 AAR design cars. And notice the B1 trucks underneath. Those were a certain number of those cars got those particular trucks, and they stayed with them throughout their entire lives. Go ahead. This is the original scheme for the 1942 built cars. And the Monon kept that, of course, until the early 50s, and they wanted to modernize their image, and apparently reliable service wasn't good enough. So they wanted that Hoosier line stripe across the top, and that's where they went next. Go ahead. I think we've seen this picture already. Go ahead. And this one. That's what happens when you throw a bunch of these together and grab everything you got. This is a 1942 built car, and it's been painted after January 10th, 56. You notice how that top stripe kind of bleaches out white pretty fast. And that last photo shows that. This is more like what they looked like when they were newly painted. Now, remember when the Lafayette shops painted a car, it had the brown ends. When Pullman Standard painted the car, it had black ends. So, and you could always pretty well track that variation all the way through. Go ahead. This is one of the original paint scheme cars. There was a minor variation. These were delivered in 2 series. First 150 had uh, the word MONON was closer to the CIL. There wasn't as much space in between. Very minor variation. However, if you bought one of the Monon Society cars that had this, that variation was covered with the society's release. And the cars over 9150, which would be 9151 through 9450, had the B1 trucks. Go ahead. And this is one of those cars that got repainted into the scheme that was adopted in the late 50s. This is a brown car with white lettering. And really a pretty practical paint scheme, I think. I've always liked it. Go ahead. This is maybe a one-of. It appears to be an experimental paint scheme. They kept the Hoosier line that originally came on the 1 to 500 cars, but this is a 42 built car, and they're trying out a different kind of MONON, and we're still pre 56. So I've only ever found one boxcar painted like this. I found one hopper car painted like it. That style of MONON, interestingly enough, ended up on the water tower at Monon also. Um, so go ahead. Just another 37 car, and it's not got the MON reporting marks. Go ahead. Same thing here. Go ahead. And this is a pre-56 paint job on a 37 car. Great stripes, pretty noticeable there. Go ahead. Now during the 50s, from 52 to 57, uh, some cars got painted like this, what you see right here. I'm not sure why, but they didn't standardize completely on that white stripe paint schemes. So go ahead. And this is Crawfordsville Freight House, and there's just a Monon boxcar shot there. It's one of the, I'm not sure what series it is. Go ahead. I think we've seen this picture. Go ahead. In 1968, the Monon took the first 450 cars. Those were the 1937 AAR design cars, and they refurbished them. They sold them to the Monon Transportation Company, and the Monon Transportation Company hired the Monon's Lafayette shops to rebuild them. So this was some kind of accounting magic for depreciation purposes, I'm sure. But what the railroad did was on many of the cars, they strengthened the side sill under the door and then applied this particular paint scheme to the car and turned them loose. But each car got evaluated individually and changes were made as needed. Sometimes it was a different door, sometimes trucks, whatever it was. But all these cars, when they were rebuilt, retained their original wooden running boards. Go ahead. In the late 40s, the Monon equipped 25 cars with load restraining devices. And in order to make those readily identifiable, they painted them gray with red lettering. So that's red lettering you see there, except for the Herald, and that's a white background with a red M and the Hoosier line in it. Des Plaines Hobbies made this car. You could also use the Champ decals to make the car, which is how I made mine. And then Des Plaines saw that and decided they could do it, so they went ahead and had one made. So I have one of theirs too. But there was only 25 of these cars, but they sure are standouts when you see them. Go ahead. And this is what the interior road load restraining devices look like. And that this was also the beginning of the 1200 series. And that series was used for all of the Monon's 40-foot cars that had special equipment inside them. And the first 25 were the 37 cars. After that, they were the pre-PS1 cars that got converted. Go ahead. This is the last paint scheme carried by that series of cars, which is that late 50s scheme here, the 1223 has since been promoted to maintenance of way service, but not renumbered. These cars typically handled brick, where the load restraining devices were good. They also had handled some roofing and auto parts. Uh, those are just the assignments I can recall. They were all assigned typically. Some of them were assigned to LCL Freight also. Go ahead. And this is one of the LCL Freight cars. They randomly selected 9 and probably 10 cars from the 9001 to 9449 series and gave them this special paint job with the high-speed merchandise service in the white stripe on top. And you'll notice, thank heaven, there's no white stripe across the door. That's the hardest damn thing to paint on a Monon boxcar. So these are the guys that you would see at the freight houses a lot of times. Go ahead. And here's another one. Nothing special about it, just it shows you that the numbers were selected at random and there was no special number series. Go ahead. And another. Go ahead. So we've tracked down the numbers. These we think they are, which I think there's a total of 10 listed here, but we're not totally sure about the 9390. It might be the 9370, and we just can't see it well enough. But these were first applied about 1952, and after the LCL business ended, they remained in service, and in many cases weren't repainted, so they showed up until they were programmed for some other reason. Go ahead. The Monon had 5 tank cars, originally numbered 801 through 805, and then they changed it to 1801 through 1805. They were used to haul company diesel fuel originally. You see that big tank in the back of the Monon could, I think, store about 1 million gallons of diesel fuel at the Lafayette shops. And so a lot of times they bought it, and I'm figuring they bought it, got a good price, and stored it there. Um, and after, even though there were price fluctuations, they had bought it at a good price and could uh, and then distribute it throughout the system because they had fueling facilities at most engine terminals or all engine terminals until they ultimately tightened that up and eliminated many of them. But this is one of the tank cars. You'll see some of the others. Go ahead. Those are silver with black lettering. This is the most unique one of all. This is ultimately became the 1805, and it's a 3-compartment tank. It's only 6,000 gallon capacity, and you can see it's one compartment's car oil, and there's diesel lube oil, and then Fortnite oil. Now, I believe, and you guys probably know better than I do, isn't Fortnite oil kerosene?
Pardon?
Fortnite oil, is that kerosene?
Don't know.
Okay. Well, they use it in the switch lamps anyway. Uh, so what this car did was it traveled throughout the system, and the different terminals would draw off as much as they could hold. And where they kept it was they just had a bunch of barrels sitting out there in this big oily spot, and they would get as much out of there as they could into their barrels and fill them up, and then put a tarp over them, and then they would use out of that to fill switch lamps, lube oil where you needed, and car lube oil where you needed it. On all the shops that did that kind of work. Uh, and this was the only car that did that. Storage department operated out of Lafayette, where they kept all of this stuff in bulk. Go ahead. And they had 2 cars like this,
Oh,
and then 2 like the ones you saw with the lower running boards. And these hauled first they hauled diesel fuel. Ultimately, UTLX cars brought the diesel fuel in, and these cars were used to haul waste engine oil. I'm pretty sure there was a reclaiming place up on the Michigan City branch, and it looks like these cars uh, would haul that in many cases, not always, because I've seen evidence of the Monon shipping a load of oil in their
it,
cars, but these were transferred offline to Standard Oil up in Whiting.
that is one unusual bolster under that tank car.
It is. I tracked that down. It's somebody's bolster. I've got it in my notes somewhere. Uh, and the way you can tell is that opening in the bolster. You see this
Right.
got a design that tells you what it is.
Okay.
And
Notice the pulling pocket is unbolstered.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. That's one heck of a frame under that thing.
Wow.
And I think they just bought, well, I know they bought used tank cars wherever they could get them after World War II, and got what they needed or what they wanted, and there you see it.
Hey, Mont,
Yeah.
the line or the factory that did the oil reclamation on the Michigan City line, was that the one in Westville?
Yes.
So they had rail service.
Yes,
Never knew that. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, the Monon served them. That's who did it.
I went past, I used to go to UPS there all the time and never saw anything except the smell, and you could see the smell.
It's one hell of a brake staff too. Hmm.
Excuse me. The smell kind of got me. But you're right, that stuff smells.
Man,
I have not modeled this car, excuse me, this car, but I'm dreading doing it, but I know I need to. That and the little three compartment car, you just have a lot of fun operating those cars. So I need to do it.
Mont, is that red lettering?
No, that's black lettering on it, and it's a silver car, painted silver.
Okay,
before the weathering.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that's late in that picture's taken late in the game, so it's pretty heavily weathered. They didn't look quite that bad in the early 60s and 50s. So let's go to another one, see what we got here. That's the other one. They had two like that with the high running boards, and then two with the low running boards. And like I say, I've done the research. I know what that underbody is, but uh, not nothing I've got available to me right now. I have to look at my files.
Andrews trucks.
Yeah, the Monon had a lot of Andrews trucks, and they actually favored them. The reason that was explained to me was if they had an axle failure or wheel failure, it was just too easy to drop uh, the axle out the bottom and put another one in, and off you went. And they could do that with a minimum amount of equipment. So the
Mont,
Monon,
are the handrails different on those two cars?
yes, yeah, you can see they are.
Oh, the
And
other unusual feature on that truck is it's got a snubber in it. So that had to come later.
yeah, that and I'm not sure where all the. I mean, I know the Monon had them under a lot of their stone cars. The whole caboose fleet had them, and they used a lot of them right up to the end, including these cars. These cars never were retrucked. Now, you notice the handrails, you said it was different on one end and the other. Notice that that's the B end that's got the wraparound handrail. But it looks like at least the A end on this car doesn't have the wraparound handrail. Maybe it should have, and it's missing. I'm not sure, but something to study a bunch of photographs, because I'm going to need to know this when I model them. But look how the strap extends down down to the frame. There's just a lot of things to model there.
It almost looks like on this end, closest end, that rail is hanging down. You see,
That could be,
That might
but
be
notice
it.
there are diagonal braces on
yeah.
the other end.
Well, there's two. Yeah, you can see both diagonal braces, and
Okay.
you
Yep.
get this
Yep.
bar here is probably supposed to be up there.
Okay, let's look for another one. In the Monon didn't have hopper cars until about 1941. Steel hopper cars, I'm sorry. Well, hopper cars. Until that time, the only hopper cars they had were these composite cars built in 1926. They had 250 of them, and they had wood interiors. You see the steel ends, and uh, the railroad used those well into the 60s. What happened was uh, it came time to um, rebuild. Let's see, it came time to rebuild this series of cars, and there was a steel strike. Now, this was in 1958, and the Monon was anticipating a lot of additional coal traffic, so they wanted to modernize these cars. So they would put steel side panels in them and upgrade anything else that needed it at that time. And I know some of them got AB brakes. I mean, not AB brakes, power hand brakes. So at that particular time, there was a steel strike. They couldn't get the steel. So they rebuilt them with wood. So they were turning out in 1959 freshly rebuilt composite hopper cars that lasted into the 60s. And they had modern paint and everything on them. And in some cases, they upgraded them with power handbrakes, but they still kept their Andrews trucks. So go ahead. Did I put you to sleep, Greg?
Ah,
No, I'm hitting the button, but it's not going anywhere.
Well, it's time to stop anyway.
there it did.
There we go.
Yeah, that's one of the rebuilds. That's what they look like. Hard to get that modern lettering in there, but they did it.
Yeah, if you're getting tired, Mont, we can break here.
Yeah, we probably should.
I'll make a note here. That's slide 111. So we'll start here next week.
Okay, we'll just do that, and maybe I'll finally be rid of this cold.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'll also give Mont time to build that tank car for us.
That's right.
Yeah, Yeah, I'll do like Clark did. I'll do one in 4 days.
Very good.
What they call it, velocity. Did you read that? Clark built a resin kit. It started on Sunday, was done on Tuesday, and somebody said they admire his velocity.
That's good.
Each to their own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
he's a character.
You got to remember, he doesn't want to go out in the cold. Of course, we're going to have 40s and 50s now, but I mean, when it was cold, he stays inside.
Well, I was in Indiana last week, and it never got above freezing, and was
Yeah.
down in the single digits many nights. So I came down here, and it's warmer. We're in lower Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Stay the rest of the month, and then back to home. I'd just soon be at home anyway, but grandkids are here.
There you go. Well, thank you, Mont. We'll look for round two
Okay.
next week. And everybody else, if you want to present on anything, it looks like we'll be doing this for at least another week, and maybe two. We
See
got-
what happens when you get to the bottom of the barrel, guys. So you better ante up.
So everybody enjoy your Thursday, and we'll be back at it here next week, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
No US hockey.
That's right.
Yeah.
Little skiing too.
Mhm.